right, welcome everyone. I am Dr. Neva and welcome to another webinar series. Today I have the privilege, and I say privilege, to give you some great information on launching a non-profit organization. And obviously I'm going to bring to you someone with the necessary experience in doing so. I have Felipe Rivera from Reach Social Services. That is the name of his company. How are you doing?
Thank you for having me, and I'm so excited to be here. And hello to everybody who's watching, and hope you guys enjoyed the video.
Yes, yes. So, I'm going to give you some time to really explain before I go into some Q&A. Give you some time to explain how can you launch a non-profit organization? All right, here's your time. Introduce yourself, your business and who you are. You have the floor. Go ahead.
So my name is Felipe Rivera. I'm a social worker, and I've been in social services for over 18 years. After 16 years of being employed in social services, I decided to launch a nonprofit organization. Now, when I had launched the organization, I happened to get approved during the heart of COVID-19 lockdown. And that presented its whole other challenges. But what I'll do is I would like to give you guys, I would like to explain exactly how to start a nonprofit, kind of talk a little bit about what a nonprofit is, because there might be viewers in here who might be interested, and some people might have heard the idea about nonprofit but doesn't know exactly how to go about it. So I will begin. So nonprofit is really a charity organization. And if you want to start a nonprofit, you want to start something that you are passionate about, something that regards how you want to make something better based on a problem that you're able to identify. So there's two different things that I think we need to break down when we talk about not-for-profit. There's for-profit, and then there's non-profit. So for-profit, an example is, we went through the COVID-19, right? And you noticed that there were a lot of people who were manufacturing masks, right? So I'm going to give you an example how a profit will look in a situation like that. So you order a bunch of materials. Let's just say you go through 3M, you get some filters and stuff like that, and you purchase a series of things that allows you to manufacture a mask that you end up selling. Now, the way that works is when you separate the cost from what it took to manufacture the mask to what you actually gained, and what you gained, that's considered a profit. And with the profit for a corporation, you are privileged to do what you want to do with that profit. And that profit could even go as far as benefiting either you, your family members, or certain people if you have a own corporation. Now, a nonprofit, it's a little bit different. Now, how does a nonprofit make a profit? Okay, let me break that down. So let's just say you did fundraising. Actually, I'm going to give you a better example. Let's just say you secure a city, state, or federal contract, right, where you get annual funding. That annual funding is a certain amount of money that they give you to run a program. You may hire staff, you may rent a space, you may have operational costs, and in the end, you're going to have a certain amount of money that was left. Now, in theory, that's considered the profit. However, the difference is you cannot take that money and decide to use that money for your personal gain. This is very important to understand. So you cannot say, okay, we got $15,000 out of this yearly grant that pretty much we met all our needs. Now this money is here in the pocket. You can't just sit there and say, well, I'm going to give myself a bonus for the heart. It does not work like that. You have to report all the income that comes to that organization. It is a non-tax deductible license, meaning that no money you bring in that organization gets taxed by the federal government, which means that the process and the protocols and the policies are very strict. You have to go by governmental laws. You cannot do things as if you have your own corporation. Exxon can do whatever they want. Feed the children or cannot do whatever they want. I'm trying to give examples of a big corporation and a big nonprofit organization. So that's very important to know. Now, I think the question that people will ask then is, okay, well, why would you start a nonprofit? It sounds like an expensive thing. You can't be able to get no money out of it. So what would be the incentive of starting a nonprofit? You can pay yourself. That's legal. Now, that's a different thing. Okay? That doesn't mean that you're raising all this money and you cannot pay yourself for the work that you do. As long as you're able to establish this and through the paperwork, through your taxes returns, then it's perfectly fine. So if you want to know if there's a way you can earn a living, absolutely. People do this for, people have been doing this for a very long time. So I want you guys to know you could earn a living from a nonprofit, and it's perfectly fine. Now, why is it good to start a nonprofit, right? Why now? Right now is one of the best times to start a nonprofit, and I'm going to explain why. If you're in New York City, nonprofit organizations are not going away in our generation. This is a huge culture in a lot of urban cities. So you do not have to worry about starting a nonprofit and somehow you tank because you're not able to get the funds or you're not able to get the resources. With proper knowledge and people who are in your corner, they can be able to direct you. So this is a very safe route to go if you're really interested in a nonprofit. You shouldn't worry about, we're going to dry up from funds and we need to just fundraise every single year to make a living. No, this is not necessarily how a nonprofit can operate, and I'll get into that. So now, because of the COVID-19, the government and private foundations and corporations are pouring millions of dollars into nonprofit organizations as we speak. Getting money right now could not be any easier right now, where you can start programs, you can hire people, you can even provide services that help rebuild your community. And this is all true. So during this COVID-19, you will find if you have a nonprofit, there are so many government opportunities. There's so many corporations out there trying to get money. And another incentive that you also should know is there's a tax write-off benefit for corporations. Corporations can spend a lot of taxes if they don't properly do the paperwork correctly. But one of the ways that they save lots of money is by giving donations to nonprofit organizations and reporting that in their taxes. This is a huge write-off for people who make a certain amount of money per year. This is a common practice. This has been going on for a very long time, and this is something that is a benefit to consider when you're looking for donors. So that's regarding why getting into a nonprofit is actually a good idea during this time, especially if you're coming from urban locations. It couldn't be any more easier right now with the resources that are going to be coming in over the next couple years. So I think the main thing that I just wanted to, that I think people want to know is, okay, how do you start a nonprofit? What does that even look like, right? So the first thing that you want to do is you want to be able to establish a board of members. This is very critical. And usually in most urban cities, it takes about 3 board members that you can recruit and submit to the IRS for your nonprofit license. Usually a board member will be an organizational secretary, and that person's role would generally be taking minutes and doing a lot of secretarial administrative stuff. Then you got the president, who's kind of taking the lead in the direction of where the organization is going. And then you have the treasurer, which is a very important person in this process, who is kind of supposed to overlook the money that comes in and gives you the proper consultation of how to effectively use whatever money you bring in. So you start off with 3 members. Keep in mind, whenever you fill in the application, they do a certain background check that can cause you a problem. So if you have a member who owes who has issues with IRS taxes, you may not want to include them. That can set your organization back. So you might want to, whenever you're trying to recruit a board, you might want to ask some personal questions regarding some things that are going to pop up in that process. But generally that is what they only look for. If you don't have tax issues, you probably will be okay. So once you establish your board, then you have to create a copyright, and that's being able to find a name that you're able to use legally. And there's a whole process for that, and they'll generate, like for instance, if you have an idea, you can call a particular service, and they'll give you a listing of all the people with those names, and then you can either adjust the name or you might have to change the name. But it has to start off with copywriting your name. Once you do that, you got to get incorporated, which you get an EIN number. That's an employment identification number. And and by the way, I'm explaining the red tapes of starting the organization. So once you get incorporated, after you got your copyright, then you have to complete the 501c3 contract paperwork in order to submit to the IRS. Now, you can do it by yourself. If you know enough research, if you do enough research and understand the thinking of how that application should look like, you may score a successful application on your first shot. My experience and my, just talking with people, if you don't have that experience, you might want to seek professional help because you are spending, it's about $600 to submit that application. You don't really want to be spending money on something that you haven't properly completed, and you will find lots of people make this mistake. So if you're not sure how to properly complete an IRS 501c3 contract, there are companies that support small businesses that offer affordable resources that can do the paperwork for you, and that can save you time, money, and it would help starting your organization. Let's see. So once you get approved, which can take about 3 to 6 months, it take about 3 to 6 months, depending on how IRS works. You get an approval. Once you get an approval, you'll get a determination letter stating that IRS approves you to have a 501c3 contract, right? When you do that, then you have to register for the New York State Charity Registration, which is you want to register your organization so that way you are allowed to do fundraising in New York City. This is also a red tape barrier that you'll probably find in other states as well. But in New York City, you have to register under a charity if you want to receive public funds or that you want to be able to do public fundraising. These things are very important. You cannot miss them because they will affect you down the line. So another thing that I want to talk about is how to raise money, right? That's a very important thing people want to know. That's a very important thing. If you have not discussed this, then you probably wasn't prepared to start a nonprofit. So there are several ways you can bring in money for your organization. The first way is obviously the most basic way, and that's fundraising, right? And fundraising can be done in a couple ways, right? You can do community organizing, you can do events that are purposeful, that are beneficial for people in the community, and you can just do fundraising events. That's one type of basic community fundraising technique you'll find most nonprofits do. And then there could be other things. Right now we're in a new era because of COVID-19, so I'm kind of learning more about the whole digital social media thing because during this time we weren't able to physically meet people and conduct these type of social distance gatherings. So another way also to do fundraising is pick up your camera and start doing public videos about the services you're providing. Create a track record. We're not in the time where you're able to sign stating that you receive a service. If donors want to give you money or people want to give you, they're going to say, okay, show me the proof. What you got? You want a nonprofit, where's the proof at? In this day and age, submitting paperwork and signatures and trying to convince people is not going to be enough anymore. You really need to go out there. You really need to build a brand for your organization, a brand for yourself, and establish credibility. This is something that I personally recommend if you're trying to go out and establish donors. Go out, build your brand, build your name, take your camera out there and show how to create informative videos, how to help people, or show how to do community organizing, show how to identify areas where there's people in need. These things can have long ways. I received quite a few private donations that people didn't even know about, just from watching my videos alone. They have been inspired and contacted me and was like, you know, I'm really happy about the things you're doing. Look, I want to give you a donation. And it really works just as simple as that. You know, you don't need to run out and convince people, hey, I'm helping people. You don't need to do that. You create a brand, you understand social media, you perform the work, the traffic will go through, and you're going to find people, especially at this time, who want to support people like that. So that's one way. The most important way for me, you know, I would recommend anybody who's trying to do a nonprofit is to focus on securing city, state, and federal contracts. If you're really serious about creating jobs, you're really serious about not going broke, if you're really serious about making an own living for yourself, go after those city-state contracts. But I have to tell you this, that when you create your nonprofit, you have to develop the vision. I'm about to share something that's very important. So if you're listening, please listen to this part, because this part will dictate how successful you'll be, okay? So here we go. When you write your vision and your mission, make sure that your writing and your vision is tailored towards what city, state, and federal programs are catering to. So for example, we have problems with Medicaid users. People are overusing Medicaid. They're going into hospitalizations just for a toothache or for some simple medical condition that could have been avoided by basic just going to see a PCP. The government now is throwing millions of dollars to social service programs to reach out to these individuals with multiple chronic medical conditions who don't have the knowledge and install, you know, and coordinate services that help reduce these hospitalizations. These programs will last every single year. You know, these programs are designed to build your organization. They're designed to build more people to hire, and there are more programs like that. There are mental health programs. There are children's services programs. There are youth programs. I can go on for a whole hour about how many programs are actually available for nonprofits right now. You want to be able to start thinking. So when you write here's the part. When you're writing your vision, you always want to make sure that it's tailored towards an industry and a market that you're able to receive this type of grants. You're not going to be able to say, I'm creating a nonprofit to go give flowers to people. And then you're going to go look for a federal grant that's talking about helping people with serious medical conditions. It's just not going to work like that. So this is very important. If you are trying to start a nonprofit, do your research. Think about the financial plan. Look at what's out there and see if this is something that's going to continue over 5, 10, 15, 20 years. So that's something that I want to be able to put that out. And how to secure city grants or get involved with the medical or get involved with the government contracts. When you have your 501 and you have your board established, there are New York City databases that you can register your company in. And it's a process, you know, and when you register them in, like for instance, I want to do something regarding of working with people with medical that there's city programs for. I have to register my organization into this database, get approved, provide all the information that they're asking for. It's not information that you can't do, by the way. You can actually start a very small program and you can actually get into those, and then you get into the pool of the city resources and you start to bid for the contracts annually. Now, here's a good thing that I want to point out. If you get accepted to these systems, the reapplication, you know, to reapply every year now is actually more easier now. So as long as you're being able to comply with your audits and you're doing the work that you need to do, to reapply couldn't be any more easier now. So the point that I just want to put out is that if you're trying to seek city, state, federal contracts, their databases that you enroll your organization in, and then they will be able to put out this information. Is as far as like you in social media, you're sitting there and you're just scrolling to go see yourself, to go see a decent 5-minute video. It's almost as simple as that. It's just scrolling through that database and seeing what grants are available. And that's how easy it really is. People don't know that, but it really is easy. I think I went a little bit too much. I probably could keep on, but I'd like to open it up for questioning, just in case anyone has. Sorry.
Yes, thank you so much. You know what? Ooh, knowledge is golden. And you just poured so much information. And when you said, I'm making notes for those that are, watching me at this time. And you said $600, the cost to, put this together. And I remember when I paid that $600. You see, so here it is. Some years back, early 2000, I went to a grant writing class and I figured out how to put, it was basically putting a nonprofit paperwork together. But luckily for me at